Premed Office Hours, episode 177. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here for another amazing day of Premed Office Hours. We are here. The Medical School HQ team is here almost every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm joined by the amazing Verinia Granum, former Assistant Dean of Pre-Health and STEM Advising at Hofstra University. How are you doing, Verinia?
Doing well. Hola, everyone.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien. It's a little cold today, a little gloomy here in New York.
Did you change your office setup?
I did. This is the OG setup. This was
Nice.
when I first started. Yeah, life has been weird lately, so I thought, well, let me try getting a new new perspective on things, both figuratively and literally, and we'll see where it takes us. Plus, I love my wall art.
Yeah, I love it. Nice, some abstract art and some birdies. And a dead tree with a heart in the trunk. I love it. It's not dead. I literally had this conversation with my 5 and 9-year-old today. It's really my 5-year-old, because my 9-year-old knows, right? When trees lose their leaves, they're not dead. And my son was like, the trees are dead. I'm like, no, they're not dead. They're just resting for the winter.
They're sleeping.
They're focusing on their roots. And
all that energy so they can bloom. So.
Exactly. So anyway, that tree's not dead. It's just resting.
Just resting.
Also joining us today, Courtney Lewis, former director of admissions at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. How you doing, Courtney?
Good. I enjoy our random bits of conversation at the beginning of these things, just to check in and everything. Excited about the next cycle coming up and some holiday travel to see some family. So I always love this time of year.
Yes, it is the most wonderful time of the year, as a specific song mentions.
It can be.
It is also potentially a hard time of year for lots of people. So if you're out there struggling, please get some help. Courtney, it is very gloomy outside. Super great.
We were just talking
have,
about
an atmospheric river coming your way, or has it hit already? Oh, it hit. I've seen tons of rain and flooding and stuff in northern Washington.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like this. This will be my backdrop for the next 6 months. So let's just buckle up.
I'll send you my tree if you want, so you can have some life.
I'm gonna have to get one of those vitamin D lights or something, because
a sad light.
Coming from New Mexico, I'm definitely gonna get the sad stuff. So
seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, which is the perfect acronym for it. What you can do is you get some dry erase markers, which work very well on Windows. Just get a bunch of blue ones and then just color it all blue. So as the light comes in, it looks like it's blue and sunny.
I could just put screens on it.
You could.
So great ideas. Great ideas coming.
Yes. We are here for the next, 53 minutes or so to answer your pre-med questions. We have 2 amazing pre-med experts, and then me, who is just some random dude that talks on a microphone, helping you get into medical school, answering all of your pre-med questions. Use us as free pre-med advising for the next hour. If you need some one-on-one advising as well, we are available for that. Our schedules are filling fast for the next application cycle. Courtney, Verinia, Dina on our team, and Dr. Scott Wright all see students one-on-one. So if you need some help, go to medicalschoolhq.net today to go check out our advising options. Awesome. All right, let's rock and roll. Charbel, is it okay to take less credits during next semester because I will be studying for the MCAT? I am still a full-time student. Yes. Courtney, this comes up all the time, right? Our students is like, are they going to nitpick if I take 9 credits instead of 12 credits, or 12 credits instead of 14 credits, or 14 credits instead of 18 credits? Are they gonna knock me down for that? Do admissions committees have time to nitpick an application like that?
As with most things, it depends. For the most part, no. I would say, especially if you're full-time, if you drop from like a 15 to a 12, that is really, really not problematic. If you go to a half-time and they can see the overlap, it'd be fine. We've seen so many applications that you could pretty quickly make assumptions and then just move on. The question will come in as if it introduces any risk, right? Are you taking a very low volume of credits and doing very poorly in them, and you also have a low MCAT score during that time? I think that would be the only, it's when you have kind of the low end of the polarization where it may introduce some risk that's unwanted. But if you are floating there, you're still doing well, you're at full time, it's just a little bit less to help you focus on the MCAT, I would encourage you to do that. That sounds like sound strategy. So that would be the only thing that would come into play.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. You're fine, Charbel.
You're just fine.
All right. Next question from our friend Cameron. Cece, I start scribing this month. Congrats. I'm a junior, thinking of applying next cycle. With COVID happening my freshman year, not affording transportation till now. Is the timing of my experience a red flag? Verinia, also another very common question, especially students. We're kind of post-COVID at this point. Students who the first couple of years of their education couldn't get some experiences because things shut down. Cameron in a very similar kind of a common situation where transportation wasn't affordable, although I kind of argue with that one, right? Most places have public transportation. You don't have to own a car to use Uber or Lyft or bum a ride from a friend, whatever. But hey, it is what it is. A lot of students kind of cramming in experiences later on, kind of right before a cycle. What are some issues that come from that, if any?
Yeah, it's not advisable because you don't want to cram everything just before you're applying. It's going to look inconsistent. It's going to look like you sort of just made this decision.
Oh, hi.
Hi. In your situation, though, Cameron, great. I'm glad that you're starting now. So that's always helpful. What have you done prior to this? It sounds like it's been kind of minimal. But it's not necessarily a red flag because you have that context of, COVID, etc. My hope is that you've done other things. But the risk of maybe, let's say, this is literally your first ever experience. You haven't shadowed, you haven't done anything else. Then it's a little bit more of a concern. And even now it's December, applications open in May. You have 5 months to build up experience. You're still going to continue hopefully in that role. But 5 months potentially, depending on how what your schedule is like, gives you some exposure, gives you some idea of what this is all about. And that's what's going to form the basis of your application essays later on. So if in 5 months or whenever you're ready to apply, you haven't kind of built up that experience and you can't reflect and say, hey, this is why I want to do this, then potentially that might be an issue. But I think you have time.
Alrighty. Anonymous Cat. I kind of like that better than Fluffy Cookie. Hello, Anonymous Cat. I have been accepted to my top choice program that will cost $400,000. But I also got a full ride to a lower tier school. You go free. Free. How do I weigh these options? I'm afraid I won't get my residency choice. No, the medical school does not determine residency. You determine residency. Your performance in medical school. I think if you ask any doctor will tell you go to the free school. There's no such thing as a lower tier school. That's all pre-med made up crap to make people feel good about the school they got into so they can talk down to students who didn't get into what they consider a top tier school. You go for free. Congrats on that free ride.
Yeah. I will ask now, why is it your top choice program? Is it because it's a top, quote unquote, top tier, or is it because it legitimately is so you know what you want to do? But I agree with you. The less debt, the better.
I'm going to chime in. I want to reinforce that. Knowing you're not able to work during school, which means that you have to cover your own health insurance, groceries, car payments, insurance, like all of the day-to-day bridge tolls, parking tickets, like everything goes on that bill. So it's not just tuition, it's the entirety of cost of living, depending on where they do rotations, everything like that will add in, and those numbers jump fairly quickly. And so if the curriculum is presented at this other school in a way that you feel is going to work well for you and it has the resources that you want, then yeah, truly, that is just astronomically better for when you get out. And if there's a certain residency that you want to go into, just make sure you're doing research in that area during the time you're at this other school, because either one of those, you'd have to do that. When you're doing elective rotations in your 3rd and 4th year, just make sure you're using them towards whatever specialty you're wanting to get into, so you could get that letter of recommendation. Then you're essentially covered. Participate in clubs and organizations. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yep. You'll be Gucci.
You can go to Harvard and still not get the residency that you want because of the student that you are. You know, it's
Go for free. Go for free.
Can't emphasize that enough.
No. And honestly, the flexibility that it affords you on the back end is just, it's huge, right? I don't think I would be where I was at today if I didn't do the HPSP scholarship and I had med school debt and I couldn't go into this whole podcasting world back in 2015 full time when I did.
And if you have undergrad debt right now too, like just free.
Yeah. Well, and that affects the credit, the debt to income ratio, and your credit will actually be affected by that. So then you end up even paying more because banks or even the government is not going to give you a super great rate. And heaven forbid you defaulted one time on an undergrad payment. I mean, good luck at that point. So it's take the full ride, take it and run. One of the students I'm doing mock interviews with right now, her brother has a full ride to NYU for neurosurgery. It's like, who even gets that? How smart is it?
Wow.
A little bit of pressure for her on the back end.
I know. Jeez. All right.
Beat that one to death. Rania, our school's strict when it comes to their MCAT deadlines, retaking it, and I was wondering if I could push it back a bit. Yeah, if they have a published date in terms of their latest MCAT that they'll accept, yeah, I would go by that rule. Published stuff is out there, so they're gonna go by it.
Yeah, and if you're not feeling ready, I mean, I don't know if anyone ever feels ready, but if you're really struggling and your practice scores are not where you really know that you need to be at, then maybe potentially it's not time, right? If you're thinking about next cycle, there's still time, but just something to think about.
Yup. That newsman animated. How should you write into your application you have co-written a novel that have published it? And that hopefully you proofread your book better than you proofread this comment. And that you have another book that will be out after the application cycle, but is complete. Yeah, Courtney, I mean, this is where the activity section comes into play, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep, this is where that information is appropriate that you can apply into it. So this sounds exactly like one of those activities or extracurriculars that you're going to put in there. So pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Yep. That's where it goes. He reacts. Is medical school still possible as a parent?
100%.
1,000,000,000%.
As Ryan likes to say, anything is possible. Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
There are plenty of parents.
Vernia, we work with a lot of non-treds. Do you know off the top of your head any students that you've worked with this year that are parental figures?
No, I have not. Not this cycle anyway. But we have had non-traditional applicants age-wise, some parents, and we see it on our Facebook groups all the time, current pre-meds that are also parents. And yeah, it's a struggle. You have to rely on on your village. Hopefully you have a support system in place. And if you're kind of going at this alone, schools have resources for situations like that for parents. So reach out to those resources, whether you're an undergrad or in a postbac, or once you get to medical school as well. Is it possible? Yes, we've obviously seen success stories. I want to work with parents. Anyone out there who's looking for advice and guidance, I would love to, because I think it's you're setting such an amazing example for your kids. And you are going to bring qualities and diversity to your program in terms of time management skills and balancing all this stuff that it's going to strengthen your class in many, many ways. So yeah, absolutely. Heck yeah, you can do it.
Heck yeah. You can do it. Yes.
Oh, Rob Schneider.
You have to be old enough to know that one.
Yeah, us old folks.
Waterboy.
We know that one.
Water's better. The Nintendo Man 64. Oh, Adam Sandler was just in town. I wanted to go see him, but it was just, my schedule was too busy. Oh well. What are your thoughts on wearing a military uniform to a medical school interview? Do not do it.
Yeah.
No,
it doesn't seem appropriate.
It's a very common question because it's like, ooh, look at me. It is not a military event, and therefore I don't think, number one, you're allowed to, and number two, to me it comes off as a former military person doing HPSP. No, it's not the appropriate use of your uniform.
Yeah. Thinking back on all the years that I did interviews, I never once saw somebody in uniform.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Like later on in events where we were honoring the military and things like that, but never once for an interview. So just wear a regular suit.
Yeah. Regular suit. This question comes up about once a year, so not uncommon, but definitely not appropriate.
I like when we start the cycle over and we start getting these questions again. So it just kind of freshens things up, and it sets the tone for kind of what we're about to roll into. I like it. It's just funny that every year so many topics are the same, or people are looking for the same information. So it's fun to be able to just share that.
Yeah.
Continue to push that out.
Yes. Joel, hello. How important is being a teaching assistant undergrad, and how would one include that in the application? Verinia, my assumption is that Joel is a teaching assistant and to make sure that it's a great experience.
Yeah.
Now he's also asking how to include it.
Yeah. I think it's a great experience. How important it is, it's not that's not the way you want to think about it. Is it something that you're enjoying? Are you, helping students and building relationships with them, and it's helping you understand material even better that you can potentially later on apply it in medical school or on the MCAT or whatever? Then yeah, it's valuable for sure. And how would you include it on the application? It's an activity, teaching assistant, and then you describe what you did. The main thing here is, like I said, it's not about whether or not it's important. It's about the value that it brings to your own experience and helping other people and helping other students. That's the main thing. So don't do it for your application, do it because you enjoy it, and that's why it's important, because it's important to you.
Yep.
That's it.
Yes. It goes back. We talk about this all the time, kind of the question that students ask. The question behind the question is oftentimes like, is this here? Let me find the middle part. Is this what should I do? What is better? And it's just oftentimes the answer is what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Just what do you want to do? It's all been done before, so go do what you want to do.
Yep.
Liza, hello, Liza. I'm assuming, or Lisa. Different way to spell Lisa, but Liza. I am currently a sophomore with no experience shadowing and no community service hours. I am transferring to a 4-year school from a community college. Cool. There's a question there. I'm like, cool. Thanks for telling us. What are some initial steps that I should take to make myself a viable applicant for medical school? So Courtney,
that's a loaded question.
Liza here is an unmolded ball of clay. Let's mold her into the perfect medical school applicant. Where do you start?
Okay. When you transfer to that 4-year institution, I would say the jump or change in curriculum, if you can perform well during that semester or a year of transition, it will reflect a bit better on your academic performance. So if you need to, give yourself some buffer time to study or go to office hours or whatever it is you need to do and kind of pace yourself there. And then as you learn kind of what time you have, that's when you can start tucking in other things like clubs and organizations or the community volunteer, at a soup kitchen or Habitat for Humanity or something like that. And then the shadowing and your clinical experience hours, you kind of filter those in as you go to show consistency, but also just to be able to have any type of balance in your life, because not everything can be at 1,000 all at once. So that's kind of how I would project this next little chunk of time. But it's a great time to be asking this question because your journey can be very strategic. You could be really thoughtful with your timing and the pacing of your courses and how you factor things in instead of having to go back, redo things because you were unaware of them, and come to us for advising because we help with that. We can look at your curriculum. We can chart out how to do experiences. We can act as sounding boards and things like that. And you just have a check-in with us. And that could be helpful too if you need a pre-health advisor.
I was just about to say that. To be the best pre-med out there, sign up for MAPT. MAP.com. You can enter in all your courses, all your activities, track them there. And if you sign up for the pro level, you get access to chat advising, which Courtney was just mentioning. You can check in with us, see how your application is looking as you move through the process. And you're a sophomore now, so this is a great time to take advantage of that because you'll have guidance a year or two before you have to apply or are thinking of applying. So highly recommend MAP.com.
Well, and we also have the pre-med pathway for undergraduate students to start freshman, sophomore, or junior year with actual advising appointments. Plus they get MAPT Pro, but actual appointment sessions with us and things like that. So
there you go.
I'll be like Ryan, premedpathway.com.
Premedpathway.com. Gotta have that URL.
We own all the websites.
Gotta rebrand it.
all of the websites.
We own all the URLs.
I want to own MCAT.com, MCAT.com, and Premed.com. I would love to own, but MCAT.com is like $75,000. I'm like,
jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's also a trademarked name, so I don't want to go buy it and then have the AAMC go. Yeah, that's our name.
Yeah.
Although they don't protect that brand. So anyway, hello there. What's next? Rohalia, if I take a class twice, will med schools get my initial lower grade or the second better grade? They will get both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, med school applications. Yeah. Unfortunately, however you want to look at it. Even if your undergraduate institution, listen to me carefully. even if your undergraduate institution says, hey, we do grade replacement, we're going to take off your first grade from your transcript, we're going to only put on your new grade. When you apply to medical school, every single class, every single grade, whether or not your undergraduate institution took it off your transcript, you have to report it. If you don't report it, the medical schools have this thing called the application services, and medical schools have a clearinghouse where lots of data goes to that they can go rummaging through and go, hey, you did not report all of your grades. We consider you a liar, liar, pants on fire now. And you do not want that red flag on your application, on kind of your name. So don't play those games. Every single grade goes onto your application. Every single course goes onto your application.
Yep.
Yeah. Now,
so your GPA will be different.
Yeah, it'll be different. Mm-hmm. And math is math. They just get averaged together, just like two random classes would get averaged together. Now, if this was, there may be some lingering information out there about grade replacements. The DO application did many years ago, 5 years, 6 years ago, maybe. It changed. You think it's more than that now?
Yeah, because I've been in it, and it hasn't been since I've been in.
Okay.
So it's more than that.
Yeah. So the DO application did used to do grade replacement. They would replace your newer grade with your older grade, even if your newer grade was worse than your older grade. And then some lawsuits came and they got rid of it. So,
yay, litigation.
Yay, lawyers. Lawyers got to make their money somehow. All right. Good question. Allergy. Does caregiver for people with developmental disabilities count as clinical experience? I work full time and I can shadow like 3 months before applying.
Is it clinical?
Verinia? Is it?
Is it clinical?
I need some like Jeopardy music to play with it as we ponder.
Yeah, we need like a button or something with cheers in the background. Cheers.
I can do the cheers.
Yeah.
or if Verinia says no, it's not clinical, then I can do that.
Yeah.
I love that. Alaji, is it clinical? Potentially. It depends on what you're doing. You're providing care. What does that look like? Chances are it's helping with activities of daily living, caring for them, feeding, potentially, that kind of thing. Then yes, that's clinical. What I'm a little bit more concerned about is the working full time and can you shadow for 3 months before applying? Does that mean that's the only shadowing experience that you have? If it is, then that's okay, but you probably want to try to, I don't understand why specifically 3 months before applying. You have time, you can start shadowing now. But yeah, in general, providing care in a way like this, where you're caring for another person's health, that's clinical. That's clinical experience. But try to see if you can shadow also. It shouldn't be your only clinical experience. You want to get out there and observe in a clinical setting too.
Mm-hmm.
Sneha, how do you recommend balancing classes while studying for the MCAT and volunteering, shadowing, and taking care of your mental health? And Courtney, this process is not for the faint of heart. And this is just the beginning, right? As a pre-med student, med school is even tougher, residency even tougher. Then eventually as an attending, it's still not easy. I'm in physician groups and I see lots of first year attendings being like, this is the hardest I've ever worked. Does it get any better? and physicians come and say, yes, it gets better. What do you recommend? How do you recommend a bunch of self-care here and priority balancing, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. Some people need help being disciplined. Others are very disciplined and need help stepping away. I think you need to be honest with yourself on what kind of prep you actually need for the MCAT, because it's usually the bane of everybody's existence. So if you need to learn how to interpret the passages, to go over content material, and you know, previously you haven't done as well on standardized tests, then you need to really set aside some serious time and maybe have help from others in structuring that. So, you know, other things would then go out of balance, but you can't do everything at 1,000, and they're not expecting you to do these things all simultaneously. That's why pacing and doing things here and there over time, those hours add up and that perspective adds up and things like that. So if for a short period of time, you need to decrease in some of these other extracurricular areas or experience areas, while not, you know, maybe letting everything go and only studying for the MCAT, then do that. Taper off if you can. Some people cannot do that, and that's understandable because that's what pays the bills. So I think it's being honest with yourself. I think there are resources on campuses for learning specialists, for helping with university things like this, where they can help you structure out schedules, day-to-days, things like that. Not putting it to the last minute. But yeah, a lot of the times it's more so enjoying the journey, which means taking a step away sometimes. If you're somebody who is very disciplined and been charging at this full speed, take a break. Take a couple mentee bees, all right, and watch a show or go to a football game or go out to eat with some friends and things like that. In the scheme of things, that will keep you feeling healthier, happier, and it shows in research that staring at a computer screen for hours and hours and hours on end trying to study actually doesn't help you retain the information. That's something that all of the med students kind of get schooled on when they get into med school, so that they figure out how to pace themselves with that information. So try to just take some time for yourself, be disciplined on the things that you need to be disciplined on. And if you need help with structuring, there are resources for that. And, you know, things are just going to have to be shifted priority wise and the hours devoted to them during certain time periods along this journey. That's what being an adult is in managing your time, right? I know, right? Like any person, right? We have to get our chores done for house upkeep, for dry cleaning, for scheduling doctor appointments. Like life still goes on. So have some things in place that will help you not feel completely overwhelmed and burnt out before you even start. It's not helpful to burn yourself out. That's most often what I see with pre-meds that carry on to be medical students and then doctors. There is an element of, you know, kind of overachiever, right? Where you hold yourself accountable to a lot. So usually it's not a discipline thing. It's a being disciplined about taking breaks kind of thing, or having some fun kind of thing.
Yeah. Plan the work the plan, get a calendar, stick to it. And yeah, this is one of the seasons of life that I think you just have to understand, right? Whole work-life balance is, for me, a big myth. We all go through seasons of life where we work harder during some seasons. Even for us as an advising team, we go through cycles during the school year where it's very busy when the application cycle opens up, and then it dies down as students are kind of coming out of the application cycle. And we know some of those busy times, it's like, oh, my hair's on fire and I got to hold my breath for a little bit. And then we get through it and it's like, okay, I can breathe again. That's life. Victoria, I'm a licensed professional counselor doing a post-bac summer of 2023. I just earned my PhD. Hello, Dr. Victoria, in marriage and family therapy, October 2023. Congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Will my experience in mental health count as clinical experience? Verinia, is it clinical?
It's clinical.
Marriage and family therapy, mental health counseling. I don't see mental health counseling as clinical. Ryan, you're making a face.
I would.
Well, it depends.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because I struggle with this one a little bit.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Brittany?
It depends. I hate to say it. It depends on like when I think clinical, right? It's health of the body. And yes, the mind, the brain, all of that is also involved, the emotions behind that. So there is some element of clinical experience there. You're working with a patient, a client, whatever that is. It just shouldn't be your only experience. You want to have exposure to the day-to-day of a physician dealing with physical ailments as well, especially since that's the direction you're going in. I don't know if you're, or I don't know if you're thinking of psychiatry in the future potentially. That shouldn't matter, honestly, at the end of the day.
This person's going to be pigeonholed as a future
right.
psychiatrist.
Sure,
when they're going to read the application.
Yeah. So just
whether
make
or
sure
not that's what she's interested in.
Exactly. So just make sure that that you also get exposure to other areas of medicine. So is it clinical? Yes.
Courtney,
it is.
Courtney, you say yes. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah.
So my side in this debate, I feel like mental health counseling it falls within the realm. Like if you look at some of the volunteer positions that we say are clinical, like volunteers rounding on patients and kind of reporting on their vitals and giving them a blanket or sitting with them to make sure that they have somebody there for companionship and things, and we count that as clinical. I think this is a lot more involved, and as somebody who's gone to a lot of counseling in her day, I feel like it's an overlooked aspect, but you are trying to help the health and overall well-being of a patient, where you're held to confidentiality rights and information, and you can, I assume that a lot of this can also be billed. So that would be kind of my reasoning for the clinical aspect. You may not be able to prescribe anything, but neither can 99.9% of pre-meds. So
I think I agree with what you're saying, Courtney, and it makes sense. I think what threw me off a little bit is the marriage and family aspect of it, because that's very different therapy than, say, mental health counseling. There is some mental health counseling aspects to it, of course, but I think
should be more.
Right, at the end of the day. But congrats, Victoria.
But I think this is a good example of what we say. It depends, right? You can't rely on just one thing to carry, because there may be different interpretations depending on what the school wants to see, which is kind of a little bit outside of your control, because you won't know. So that's usually why breadth and depth, different clinical settings, different providers or opportunities will help you in that, and kind of giving you breadth and depth of understanding and insight, but also you're not relying on one thing that people may interpret any number of ways, which can happen.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Adam. Hello, Adam. Is it appropriate to email med school admissions and ask how they'd view a do-it-yourself postbac at a community college? Courtney, as a former director of admissions, do you like these types of kind of one-off nuanced questions, or do you prefer students stay on Student Doctor Network and ask random people. Or sign up for a Mapped account and ask us.
Sure. I think this is more appropriate for the schools that allow like advising appointments at the end of the cycle and things like that, where if you're not talking to us about it, and you want to get a specific school's perspective, hopefully they allow for kind of these advising type appointments where you're able to ask. I'm not sure how much response you're going to get from some schools through an email asking this question. Usually they take the mentality of, well, you should already know that. If you did your research, you would know. I'm not going to spoon feed you this information, which is one of the things that Ryan and I aligned on at a summit in Toronto where I first met him, is because you can get people that have either never been through this process or don't have a lot of sympathy for information seekers. So do the research you can on your own. Most schools can see kind of what's going on more or less in your life. And if a do-it-yourself postbac is the best option for you, great. If you need to address certain things in your application, it may or may not be the best way to address them. So maybe this would be helpful for follow-up in kind of discussing what your goals are for doing it and if that will be achieved. But I'm not sure how much response you're going to get from just an email, to be honest.
Yeah. All righty. Kate, do college classes taken during high school years, are they factored into undergraduate GPA for medical school? Yes, they are. They are college classes. So dual enrollment, Vernie, is often something that unfortunately burns a lot of students because they're like, I can take credit in college. It doesn't really matter. And then they're like, I want to be a doctor.
And then it matters. Yeah.
Then it matters. Talk about that.
Yeah, because they are college level courses. And when you're taking them in high school, you may not be prepared for them. And so you may not take them as, seriously or whatever that may be. Or maybe you just struggled in them. And, when you apply to medical school, you have to submit transcripts for every kind of undergraduate course that you've taken throughout your entire career. Yeah, that includes dual enrollment courses. So any missteps along the way, unfortunately, will still show up. But hopefully, right, you kind of look back and you see there's been an improvement as you've progressed in undergrad, or maybe you need to potentially consider some additional coursework to show improvement. So you have options. But yeah, those classes will be factored in.
Yep. Victor, I've been having some difficulty trying to find early decision program acceptance rates. Do schools post that? And if so, where can I find it? I don't know if I have ever seen any sort of early acceptance rates. My question, Victor, is what does it matter? So let's ponder for a minute. Number one, if you're looking around at all of the programs and going, who has the best acceptance rate? I'm going to apply to that program. That's not the point of early decision, right? Programs. Early decision programs are, I have really strong ties to this program. This is my school. I want to get down on one knee and propose to you. Every other school is invisible to me. You are my one true school. That's what those programs are for. Some schools even want you to call them before you apply and have a conversation with them, and they'll tell you, yeah, you should apply or you shouldn't apply. They're very strict oftentimes with who they want applying and who they accept through the early decision program. It's not oftentimes students think early decision equals easier to get in, and that's just not the case. That's not what early decision is for. So if there's one program out there, like you're tied to that program, maybe you have a spouse who works at that school, your kids are integrated in the community, you're taking care of a sick family member, you need to stay in that spot. Those are oftentimes very good reasons to apply early decision to one program. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Courtney, anything to add there for early decision?
No, I agree. They're risky for sure. I don't think I know any place where they do post that information. I'm the same as you. I've never gone looking for it specifically, but I also don't remember ever coming across it. And putting my director hat back on, I can understand why I wouldn't want to have to publish that information. But I agree with what you were saying as far as who should be utilizing the early decision process. I mean, you have to have a really strong tie to the school, compelling, where it's just like, it's just a very clear and easy fit and a very strong application, not just being from the area. So because they hold you to just applying to them, basically through October, it's risky. So utilize it if you have all of those things in order. Don't hold yourself to just one school. You can still be compelling. You can still have a great application for a school and not have to do early decision. So it's, I don't know, but I'm not sure if that information would be out there, because I think other things that would kind of factor in is where they count, like if they have a feeder program, where they would count those students, if it would be kind of looped into that early decision process where they have early interviews and they decide how many of those they're going to take or not and stuff. So I think even if it was posted, there would be nuances to it. Yeah. All the data is corrupt. Done it a million times. Well, it's just all.
It's massaged.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
It's massaged.
It's not corrupt. It's just,
cherry pick.
It's not as straightforward as one might think.
Yeah. Natalie, will the enrollment for Application Academy reopen? It will. We will be reopening soon. Yeah, I think on the schedule, my team doesn't know this yet. I think we're supposed to do a workshop next week, but I don't think we should do a workshop next week. Like you guys aren't involved in it, so it's like the workshop that I do to promote Application Academy. We're going into final season, and like signing up for Application Academy is not on people's mind right now, except for Natalie. But yeah, I think we'll definitely keep an eye out. But we'll definitely be opening Application Academy beginning of the year to start promoting it again. But I think there's a small window at the end of this year too.
Yeah, because I just did one of the welcome sessions this week for the new cohort coming in, and there's a decent turnout for that. So obviously some people were getting on it. But
yeah, we had one yesterday
too. Look out.
Very big.
Join us. It's the best product on the market for the $1 price point. I'm telling you.
Heck
you cannot get better. You just can't. You can't. It does not exist.
Donald, does rounding on patients in exam rooms and giving blankets, food, and charting patient experience?
Not it.
Is it clinical?
I've answered 2 already. Not it.
Oh, look, the camera went to you.
I'm kidding. Maybe I should start with explaining what clinical is. So clinical experience, for everyone listening and watching, is any experience where you are directly involved in the caretaking of another human being, right? You're directly responsible for their well-being, their health in some way. So yeah, that can include rounding on patients, giving them blankets, food, charting patients' experience. It sounds like you're a medical assistant almost. So yeah, that's absolutely
volunteer.
Or volunteer. But yeah, absolutely, that's clinical experience.
Yay! Brian, can you talk about the different types of medical school curriculum, subject-based versus traditional versus problem-based? Do these make a difference in choosing schools for your school lists?
It should.
Ooh, I think it should. I wish I knew some differences back when I applied. Courtney.
Well, you're the one that went through med curriculum. I can talk about a few of them.
Yeah.
I love this question. I wish more pre-meds had this at kind of the forefront of their minds when they were looking, because I think it makes quite a bit of difference. If you are somebody, let's say, even aside from the curriculum content, if you're somebody, you don't feel lectures are that effective. If you have the slides, you move through them, you listen to everything on double pace, and self-study works well for you, then maybe you don't go to a school where it's mandatory attendance for lecture, because then you will be forced to do that and then study on your external time. So these types of things matter when it comes to your day-to-day and you having things that work for the way that you learn. Now, there's going to be resources at each school that will help you. But so as far as the different types of curriculum, there's kind of a system-based integrated curriculum, which would be each system, like renal, neuro, cardio, gets broken down into a number of weeks. They call it a didactic. And each faculty member will be in that same system. So everything is focused on that system as far as content. And you go through that with everybody on the same page, and then you move to the next didactic. So you go through the systems like that, where everything is integrated and very organized and structured, versus problem-based or case-based, where the information kind of gets presented in a patient presenting with such and such symptoms and things like that, and you chase the science down like that. There's different formats for presenting each of these different types of curriculum, though. So very different formatting, teaching styles, and things like that. Ryan, I don't know. You probably have more.
No, I mean, that's the gist of it, I think. And yeah, as we kind of already said, it should go into your decision making for school lists. When I talk about building a school list, one of the first things I mentioned is curriculum. I went to a traditional curriculum school. I would have done much better at a systems-based school. I didn't know the difference when I applied. And systems-based schools, because I'm old, were less popular back in the day when I was a kid. And so, yeah, I would have done much better, right? Traditional is kind of learning everything in silos, and the way my brain works, I didn't like that. I would have loved to learn everything together. So yeah, those are the big ones.
It's funny. I get really excited by those questions because I'm like, let me drop some knowledge on you. I'm so excited to share this. I get like antsy, like, yes, great question.
Yep.
Because it matters. It matters. And those are the types of questions that
doesn't matter. Only U.S. News and World rankings matter, Courtney. Come on.
I know. It just affects your day-to-day so much, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's just the tier. What tier is it? That's all that matters. I think we got time for one more question. Joel's back. Do the same med school staff look at MSTP, MD, PhD apps, or is it a different group? I'll answer this one pretty quick. I mean, I think what a lot of students don't really understand, when you apply to MD, PhD programs, you're basically applying to two schools. You're applying to the MD program, the MD program has to accept you, or the DO program. There are DO PhD programs as well. But then you're also applying to the graduate school, the PhD program. And so it's two different admissions committees for the most part looking at your application. And there are instances where you're accepted to one and not the other. And then it's like, hey, you have a decision to make. They'll sometimes offer you that. Some schools will say if you don't get into either, or if you only get into one, you're considered a rejection, and sometimes we'll transfer you over to the regular MD cycle, or you can't apply this cycle, period. So it just depends, Joel. It depends. It's two different schools, the MD school or DO school, the medical school, and then the graduate research PhD school program. And then interviews are also different because it's typically 2 interview days. You're interviewing with the med school, and then you're interviewing with the PhD program. Good questions. For those of you who are new here and don't know who we are, we're the Medical School HQ Advising Team. Courtney Lewis, Vernia Granum, Dina Golini, Dr. Scott Wright, myself, Dr. Ryan Gray, and Rachel Grubbs are our advisors. We have a small, intimate advising team working one-on-one with students. If you would like some help with your applications, your essays, your interviews, just general questions, go to medicalschoolhq.net/advising and see how we can help you today. We're filling up for next cycle, so go check that out. And thanks for coming. We're here almost every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here for the next few weeks before the holidays hit, and then we'll take a break and see you next year. So, Dina,
good luck on finals.
Vernia, Courtney.
Yeah, good luck on finals.
Yeah. Take some Mentee Bees. Okay.
All that good stuff.
Right. Yes.
Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.